Let's understand Bayes theorem through the following example. So in this example, we have been given that a certain item is being manufactured by three companies who are our suppliers, and those companies are named C1, C2 and C3. It is also known from the records in the company that the company C1 supplies twice as that of C2, and the supply from C2 and C3 is same. Also, from the past data, it is known that C1 and C2 actually produce 2% defectives individually. That means C1 produces 2% defectives and C2 produces 2% defectives individually. C3 produces 4% defectives. When the supply comes, all the supplied items are placed in one pile, and now an inspector comes, as a quality check inspector, and he picks one item at random. Then we are asking a question: what is the probability that the given item is defective? Or we are asking another question, that is, what is the probability that given that item is defective, it is produced by C1? This is the importance. This question is of importance because I want to identify the cause of the defect. What is the cause of the defect? If it is company C1 or not. So we will try to give answers to these questions using Bayes theorem. So Bayes theorem, when you look at it, relies on conditional probabilities. So let us try to figure out what are the probabilities involved in this question. So first thing is the C1, C2, C3 supply all the material that is needed, all the items that are needed, where C1's contribution is twice that of C2. So let us say C2 contribution is 1, then C1 contribution is 2, and then C3 has the same contribution, which is 1. Based on this, I can assign probabilities to them. That is, the probability of C1 being supplying the thing is equal to 2 by 4. Probability of C2 is equal to 1 by 4. Probability of C3 is equal to 1 by 4. Remember, this I am doing based on our video on finite sample space assignment of probabilities. Also notice that these events actually partition the sample space, that is, omega is equal to C1 union C2 union C3, and they are disjoint also. So all the three conditions are satisfied. That is, what are the conditions for those things? Probability of Ci should be greater than 0. This is the third property. Then C1 union C2 C3 should be omega, and you take any two, Ci intersection Cj, it should be equal to phi. This is by construction. So I have the explicit arrangement of partition. So this gives me some idea about how to apply Bayes theorem. So I have a partition, then I can apply law of total probability, multiplication rule, and therefore I can apply Bayes theorem. Now let us go down and chart this using the sequential description of a sample space. So here is the idea. I have been given a pile. This is the pile. This pile is filled with C1, C2 and C3. So let me give the sequential description, right? Now what are the probabilities? What is the next step in this? The defectives, because we are interested in finding the probability that the item is defective. So how are the defectives coming? Given that C1 is supplying the product, C1 is supplying the item, there are 2% defectives. That means everybody who is supplying will have two cases, that is, one is either it will be defective or it will be non-defective. In a similar manner, when C2 supplies, it will be defective or it will be non-defective. C3 also will follow the same flow, that is non-defective and defective. Okay. Now let me write the probabilities on the branches. So first thing we know that C1 is, we have already computed that probability of C1 is half, then probability of C2 was 1 by 4 and probability of C3 was also 1 by 4. Now when I am at this branch, I already know that C1 has already occurred. So probability of defective given C1 is what I will write on this branch, that is 2% defectives. So I will write this as 0.02. So what will be the number of non-defective items supplied is 0.98. In a similar manner, C2 also supplies 2% defectives and it supplies 98% non-defective items. C3 supplies 4% defectives and it will supply 96% non-defective items. So now at this branch what we have is probability, what we have is a partition of a sample space in terms of events. That is, this event is D intersection C1, this event is N intersection C1. Go to the second event, D intersection C2, N intersection C2, D intersection C3, N intersection C3. So these are the 6 events that are possible in this particular outcome. Okay, so let us try to figure out what is a probabilistic formulation of this. So what is probability of D? Probability of the item being defective. So this is my A part. I am trying to figure out the answer to A part. Probability of item being defective is equal to, the best thing that I can use is the law of total probability. C1, C2 and C3 are actually a partition of a sample space. They form a partition of a sample space. So using law of total probability, I have probability of D intersection C1 plus probability of D intersection C2 plus probability of D intersection C3. Good. Do I know how to compute these probabilities? Yes, I know using multiplication rule, that is probability of item being defective given that it is produced by C1 into probability of C1. In a similar manner, I have all other probabilities, D given C2 given that it is produced by C2. Okay, so this completes our understanding. Now it's just a matter of putting in the right values and getting the answer. So I know the probabilities of C1, C2 and C3. So they are half, 1 by 4 and 1 by 4. Now let us come to the branches. That is this. So D given C1. What is the probability of D given C1 here? It's 0.02. So multiply by 0.02. What is the probability of D given C2? Here it is 0.02 again. And then D given C3 is 0.04. Okay. So with this understanding, can I say something about the probability of the item being defective? Yes, I just need to sum up and get the value. So first one is 0.01, next one is 0.005 and the third one is 0.01 again. So it should be 0.025. That should be the answer of A. So A, let me write it here. The answer is 0.025. Now let us look at this problem from a Bayes perspective. So given that the item is defective, that means you have figured out the item is defective. what is a probability that it is produced by C1? Right now in this setup you have not been given the probability of C1 given D, but you know the probabilities of D1 given C. So I want to exactly reverse the process. So for that comes Bayes theorem. So if you look at the statement of the Bayes theorem, what you have been asked is probability that the item is produced by C1 given D. Then from Bayes theorem it will be very clear that first you need to compute this probability and you need to divide it by the total probability. This is the statement of Bayes theorem I am writing. But now remember, you can simply instead of remembering the statement of Bayes theorem, you can simply use your knowledge of conditional probability and get rid of this problem. For example, what is this? What is the numerator? It is actually probability of D intersection C1. And what is the denominator? It is sum over probability of D intersection Ci. That essentially leads to probability of D, and that is what our definition also says for conditional probability. But when I computed A, I have already computed these probabilities. The probability of D intersection C1 is already computed here, which is given here. So I just need to plug in the values, that is 0.02 divided by 2, that is 0.01. So it is 0.01 upon sum over all these probabilities 0.025. So this essentially means it is 10 by 25 and that is equal to 0.4. Wonderful. So we have proved the not proved, we have figured out what is the answer to this question. So that is 0.4. Okay, so now let us analyze what is the interpretation of Bayes theorem, or how Bayes theorem helps in understanding the situation better. For example, if you are a quality check inspector and you need to give a consideration to which item, which supplier should supply more, which company should supply more. So now you have the understanding that let us interpret this understanding. The items that are being found defective, 40% of the defective items are supplied by company C1. Okay, so you can do a similar analysis because the proportions are same. C2 will be responsible for 20% of the defective items and C3 will be responsible for 40% of the defective items. Now suppose a quality check inspector has to make a decision based on this understanding, right? Then he will identify these companies C1, C2, C3 as the causes of producing the items that are defective. So the effect is the defective item being produced. Now who is most responsible for defective items to be produced? This guy C1 and C3 are responsible for the most of the defective items being produced. Then what are their shares, or what is a stock, what is a proportion in which they are supplying? So this guy C1 is supplying half of the items, whereas C3 is supplying only 1/4 of the items, and the other proportion is given by C2. So C2 is responsible for 20% defective, and a quality check inspector has to identify the cause based on the conditional probabilities. He will identify the two causes, C1 and C3 are responsible for most of the defects. Now once he has identified this cause, if he wants to chuck off somebody from the supplier chain, then he may decide that this guy is producing 40% even though he is supplying only 1/4 of the material. and this guy is supplying half of the material, still he is supplying more material, still his defective rate is same as 40%. So in that case, this quality check inspector may decide to knock off this person, this company, from the contract list. So this is how the cause and effect relationship is identified using Bayes theorem. That is the importance of Bayes theorem. Let us now look at next concept, that is the concept of independent events. So what is independence? First of all, when we talk about independence, some person is independent of somebody else. What does it mean? It means that person is not dependent for money, for other purposes which are under consideration, on somebody else. So how can you say two events are independent? So what is the structure of dependence that we are discussing is conditional probability. So let us look at the general definition of conditional probability, that is probability of B given A. We know probability of B given A is equal to probability of B intersection A upon probability of A, whenever probability of A is greater than 0. Now suppose if this factor, this is the factor that says that this particular event is dependent on A. Now if I want to consider the independence of these events, that means the occurrence of A should not influence the occurrence of B. That means I want to say this should be equal to probability of B. If this happens, then I will say the events are independent, and therefore you will get this definition of independent events. Okay, so does this mean they are disjoint events? No, disjoint events are in fact heavily dependent. We will prove that later. But this means the occurrence of event A does not influence the occurrence of event B. Okay. So right now this is the definition for two events. Let us try to understand this definition for three events. So how will I say three events are independent? In that case, let us consider A, B and C are three events in same sample space omega, and I want to consider this. So naturally two events are independent means all pair wise I have to see their independence. So I will just use that logic. A intersection B should be equal to probability of A into probability of B. Probability of A intersection C should be equal to probability of A into probability of C. And finally I am left with probability of B intersection C, that also I will write as probability of B into probability of C. Do this mean the events are independent? Right? So think about it. Do this mean the three events are independent with these conditions? Think about it, pause the video, try to solve this problem. On the next side of the video we will meet and we will answer this question. So welcome back. So here is a question that I have asked, that A, B, C are three events. Probability of A intersection B is probability of A into probability of B. Probability of A intersection C is probability of A into probability of C. Probability of B intersection C is probability of B into probability of C. Does this mean these three events are independent? That was the question that was asked. So hope you have got the answer. If the answer is yes, it is wrong. If the answer is no, it is correct. So let us see how through this example. So this is the example. A fair dice is rolled. Event A is the first dice shows an even number. Event B is the second dice shows an odd number. Event C is both dice show either both odd or both even numbers. Okay. So what is a probability? Let us first understand what is the probability of A, what is probability of B, and what is probability of C. First die shows an even number because the pair of dice that are rolled, basically one trial do not influence the other trial because they are separate dice. So what is the probability that the first die shows an even number? Naturally it will be the number of even outcomes in this. So if you want, you can list all 36 outcomes and figure out the probability, or it's straightforward that half of the outcomes will be even, half of the outcomes will be odd, so the probability of A will be equal to half. In a similar manner, second die shows an odd number, same reasoning goes for odd numbers, that is also fine. Then the third event is both dice show either both odd or both even numbers. Now here you may list the outcomes and get the answer to be equal to 18 by 36. Just try it for yourself, and the answer to this question is half. Let us look at these probabilities, that is A intersection B, B intersection C, and A intersection C. So in this case, what is A intersection B is first die shows an even number, and then both dice show either both odd or both even numbers. Here is an interesting idea. So if the first die shows even number, this thing automatically chucks out the numbers that are odd here, and therefore the probability of this will be half and this will be half. So only 1/4 of the outcomes will come in this particular zone. Therefore this probability must be equal to 1/4. For same reasoning will go for B intersection C, and it will be 1/4. Now what is the probability of A intersection C? Now see, first I actually computed the probability of A intersection C over here, and now I will compute probability of A intersection B, but probability of A intersection B is very obvious because first die has an even number and second die also shows an odd number. Therefore these two events will happen with probability 1/4. Are these events independent? Definitely A and C are independent. Let us see whether they are independent or not. But according to this, okay. So let me consider this particular condition which we have asked. Probability of A intersection B is equal to 1/4, which is equal to probability of A into probability of B. You can easily verify this. Probability of A intersection C also you can verify to be equal to probability of A into probability of C. Further, probability of B intersection C is also probability of B into probability of C. Good. Now what is the probability of A intersection B intersection C? What is A intersection B intersection C? First die shows an even number, second die shows an odd number. If first die shows an even number, second die shows an odd number, then how can both dice show the same number? That is not possible, right? So A intersection B intersection C is actually empty set. Therefore the probability is 0. So there is no question of this being equal to probability of A into probability of B into probability of C. So if you look at these three events together, happening of events A and B eliminates all possible outcomes from event C. Therefore these three events, though they have shown some independence over here, they are not independent in general. So this is not possible. Therefore the answer to this question, that Are these three events independent? No. If they satisfy this, they are not independent. In fact, I have shown they satisfy all these conditions, but they do not satisfy this condition. Right. So because they do not satisfy this condition, these events are not independent. So this brings us to our newer definition of independent events, and that definition is actually this one, that is mutually independent event. So what we will say is three events A, B and C are said to be mutually independent if the following properties are satisfied, that is they are pairwise independent, and finally when you take the entire collection of events A intersection B intersection C, that is also independent. This is how we will define for three events. Now you may ask, what will happen for four events? Natural question. So for four events, we need to check every subcollection of those events are independent or not. So that brings us to the extension of definition, where we have n events a1, a2, an. We will say all these events are mutually independent if and only if for every size, that is k denotes the size of the subcollection, for every size k, if we are able to write the probability of intersection as product of probabilities, which is given here, then we will say the events are mutually independent. So this actually brings us to a point where are independent events so rare? This is one question that you can ask. And second thing is, how is this independence actually implied in our experiments? So we will answer these questions in a more tactical way, and we will try to figure out how this notion of mutual independence helps us, because mutual independence almost eliminates the use of conditional probabilities. So whenever the events are mutually independent, we are not really worried about conditional probabilities. But whenever events are not mutually independent, like the one case earlier where we actually saw here, in this case we actually saw that probability of C given A intersection B is equal to 0, and this makes the probability of A intersection B intersection C is 0. So whenever the events are not mutually independent, we need to rely on conditional probabilities. Therefore it is important to have good understanding of conditional probabilities as well if you want to do something in the field of probability and statistics. This finishes our second topic on conditional probability.